We've now learned that a Texas nurse who contracted Ebola during her time treating the victim of Ebola, Thomas Duncan, in Texas, has now been released from Emory University Hospital in Atlanta after being found free of the virus, according to the hospital. This is Amber Vinson, who was one of the two nurses at the Dallas hospital who treated Thomas Eric Duncan, who ultimately died of Ebola on October 8th, was the first patient diagnosed in the United States. She was admitted to Emory's hospital for treatment on October 15th. The other nurse, Nina Pham, also was declared virus-free last week and left the Maryland hospital where she had been treated. Lewis, increasingly, we are getting more and more data that confirms that the panic that is seems to be the normal standard operating procedure on corporate media is completely overblown. We see here that we had two cases. Fortunately, neither of those led to people dying. And now we hopefully, at least it seems, that we have kind of closed the circle on Thomas Eric Duncan's case.
It seems we have. Don't let that. That's not going to stop the media from continuing in panic mode. I was watching CNN last night, and it was all about the Northeast now. Yes, it seems like, and I love to hear this, living in Austin, that the Dallas portion of this seems to be coming to an end.
Yeah, and you're right, because meanwhile, Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey insists that he was on the right side of both science and public opinion when he enforced a mandatory quarantine on a nurse who came back from treating patients in West Africa in spite of having absolutely no symptoms. Of course, we reported yesterday that the nurse's mandatory quarantine was eased and she was allowed to kind of self-quarantine at home as opposed to at this tent, essentially, which was determined to be the place where she had to quarantine. Chris Christie was interviewed by Matt Lauer on the Today Show, and he said that it just absolutely made sense what he did. It was the right move to quarantine mandatorily Casey Hickox. And what we now know, Lewis, is that Texas seems to have been stopped. We have a New York City doctor who has Ebola, who is at Bellevue, who did, in spite of being accused of irresponsibility, did everything that Doctors Without Borders said that he should do, which is check his temperature twice a day, be mindful of symptoms, stay within 4 hours of a hospital with isolation facilities at all times. He did all of those things, and as soon as he had the fever, he reported to that hospital within 2 hours, and hopefully, Lewis, I understand that we're only, 4 or so days in to when his symptoms started, but hopefully this is not going to spread beyond this one case in New York either, and the panic has to stop. This is being used, as we see corporate media do all the time, this is being used to create panic and fear when it is not the rational reaction.
But the point, of course, of creating panic and fear, at least from the point of view of corporate media, is that it gets you viewers, right? It increases ratings. And so it seems to work well for them.
Yeah, that's a part of it, but I have honestly been questioning this myself the last few days because I understand that fear drives viewers, and just very calmly and soberly reporting what's happening with Ebola the way we saw BBC do in the UK, it doesn't excite people or make people have to stand around the TV at their workplace to see what exactly is going on. So I get the ratings angle, but I also feel like there has to be something else, something more inherent to our culture that leads to the immediate jumping to this fear-mongering that we see. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like there's something more to it.
It could just be that we are a culture of fear. Maybe that's just our natural reaction, and it's reflected in the media.